Have you ever looked in your game collection and said, where the hell did you come from? It can happen from time to time with physical collections, but when it's digital, oh boy, can things get messy. If you're like me, you have a Steam account with hundreds of games, and I've played about 20% of them. I mean, can you blame me? There's huge sales like every other week, and I can get games for dirt cheap and never play them. I'll get to it someday, is what I tell myself, knowing full well it'll probably never happen. But today I'm going to break that streak, and I'm going to be reviewing a game I didn't even remember I had. And that game is Omega Strike. Omega Strike was released October 4th, 2017, developed and published by Wobblyware. Gotta say, I dig the name, but I can't say that I've actually ever heard of them before. Since 2016, Wobblyware has actually managed to put out one game per year, the most recent being Daggerhood, released early 2019, and the title Royal Frontier, currently in development. I haven't played any of the other games aside from Omega Strike, but I like how you can see the similarities with each release and the slow and steady evolution of it, with things being, hypothetically, a little more polished and refined with each entry. Daggerhood looks really fun especially, looks clean. I'm definitely going to get around to playing that game, and sometime soon hopefully, but enough with sidetracking myself, let's move on with the main feature. Our story begins proper NES style. White text on the bottom, letterbox video on top. A military research team spearheaded by Dr. Alphonse Omega created an elixir to transform regular soldiers into Jack Schwarzenegger-looking freaks of nature. After a while, the soldiers who took said elixir turned into barbaric mutants controlled by Dr. Omega. The forces who remained unaffected attempted to fight back, but resistance was futile. With a literal army of obedient, all-powerful mutants by his side, Dr. Omega is now able to have as big a power trip on the world as he wants. Luckily, all hope is not lost. A hideout containing a small group of freedom fighters exists. That's where you come in. We control Sarge, Bear, and Dex, a small faction within the group trying to take down Dr. Omega once and for all. Kinda sucks that these heroes are silent protagonists, but this is a game that strongly believes that actions speak louder than words, if you couldn't tell already. Although we don't get a deeper view into these characters' personalities, all three of them do feel quite different. Sarge being the consistent, well-rounded trooper with range, Bear being the slow, bulky explosives expert, and Dex being the agile ninja warrior contestant speedster. Our first task is finding a professor in a town called Tumbleweed, supposedly he has better insight on how to take out Omega. Travel onward and we get our first taste of gameplay. A bit of platforming here, a bit of gunplay there, mixed with a dash of character-specific shticks. Sarge provides your tried-and-true assault rifle gameplay with a decent blend of damage and distance. Bear has explosives that shoot out in an arc and bounce as well. At first I pretty much hated everything about Bear strictly because of his gun. It did the exact opposite of what I was expecting an explosives weapon to do. What good is an explosive that doesn't explode on impact and damage multiple people? It seems kinda counterintuitive, right? He felt the least effective of the three and by a noticeable margin. Once I embraced Bear's uniqueness, instead of wishing he was someone else, I grew to like him a lot. His explosives actually help a ton to hit enemies with ease without putting yourself in the line of danger. Definitely a bit trickier to get used to, but in the end, good stuff. Dex is a fast, slippery son of a gun. His shotgun doesn't cover much area, but thread that needle and watch enemies evaporate in a second. To help us get a better grip on both platforming and gunplay is the introduction level, Resistance Caverns. One thing I normally hate about tutorial levels is how dumbed down they are. It's like they almost look down at you as a player, usually amounting to nothing more than a wall of text on a sign. And though the same things can be found here in Omega Strike, it's for the more unclear designs and differences. Why can't I reach this platform? Oh, it's because Dex is the only one with a double jump. Why don't the guns destroy this boulder? Oh, it's because Bear has to push it out of the way. Jumping down through platforms, stuff like that. Even the babyier components are explained despite not needing to be. Press the attack button to fire. Wow. Never would have figured that one out. Small, weak enemies that move at a snail's pace, generic mutants who are a bigger target and lunge towards you, and even shotgun-toting mutants who try to pick you off from a distance. A few collectibles are shown to us early on as well. Coins and food items in containers and boxes, first aid kits and life cubes. Trust me, you'll be needing those later. Rocky and wooden platforms hung around like Christmas tree ornaments to jump from, vine patches serve as hazardous obstacles, and even chains that are used to both ascend and descend to new levels. Not sure if I'm a fan of this animation though. It kind of makes them look like they're never mind. After a long trip of run and gunning, we confront Dr. Omega, when all of a sudden he teleports Bear and Dex away, and sticks mutant Guile holding a shotgun on us. Oh dearie dear. Take him out and we're still on our own, letting us know that half the battle will be getting our friends back, and that Dr. Omega is a lot tougher than we thought he was. Another aspect done rather well in my book, letting us know boss battles will be here, they'll be difficult, have tons of health, and be heavily damaging, but provide predictable attack patterns while also testing your skills. Everything that has to do with Resistance Caverns, the placement, enemies, collectibles, challenge, and level environments all perfectly plant the seed in your head of things to come. Upon exiting the caverns, we finally arrive in Tumbleweed and meet Professor Einhorn. He tells us that Omega's most powerful commanders are the key to getting our friends back. And just like that, our journey begins. To visit the different locations our pals are held at, we of course need some mode of transportation. Here steps in a helicopter pilot named Mac, but of course the engine's busted. Mac knows where some spare parts are, but it'll be a bit of a chore to get them with Omega's mutants being everywhere. Things can never be a simple process in a video game now, can they? But anything for the boys, am I right? So let's get to stepping. First real level we get here is Cloudtop Mountains. It plays like a continuation of Resistance Caverns. There are a few new enemy types to be wary of, but they shouldn't cause any serious problems. It's like going from 50cc to 100cc in Mario Kart. A little harder, but not a big enough jump for it to feel like a real challenge. You should be good enough to hold your own here for the most part. Nearing the end, Wrestler appears in front of us. Yeah, not even wrestler like John Cena, The Rock, Dave Bautista, or Oz, but wrestler like we're being managed by Jim Cornette in Mid-South Wrestling during the early 1980s or something. I wonder how many people I've left massively confused just now. Defeat the wrestler, and we don't get the copter parts we need. Damn. However, we do get a new ability, Combat Roll. This allows us to get through cramped passageways to access, well, anything and everything. New locations, hidden items, secret treasures, you name it. Combat Roll will likely take you there at some point. Continuing Cloudtop Mountains, it started to dawn on me the scale and size of this game. I'd been playing for just under an hour up to this point. I'd beaten 2 bosses, and all I had to show for it was a single unlocked ability. Fucking hell, man. Once we finally find the copter parts and bring them back to Mac, this is where the game really begins to open up. 2 missing friends and 2 new locations? Seems a bit coincidental, don't you think? New places to visit means new enemies, new hazards, new surroundings we must familiarize ourselves with, and new problems ahead. Now, this is the point where I really got to out myself here. Up until playing Omega Strike, I've never really been well versed or put really any time into the Metroidvania genre. Not Metroid, not Castlevania, and even more modern releases like Ori and the Blind Forest and Hollow Knight, I've never really played or put that much time into. This may sound like a dumb compliment, but coming from someone who has practically zero experience with Metroidvania games, I gotta say thank fuck for these maps. They're so helpful. These levels are absolutely massive. I feel like a rat lost in a maze when I try to keep track of where I'm going and where I've been. Without this thing, I'd really be up shit's creek without a jaddle. The map even shows off how many life cubes, health kits, and treasure chests are placed throughout the level too. One other thing that took me a minute to understand was this percentage in the top right. At first I thought it was what percent of the level I'd finished. That's pretty convenient, right? Then I found out after I saved, it's a total game completion percentage. I don't know about this, it's kinda trash, isn't it? It sucks out any suspense and storytelling that's built up over time. How would you like to go to a movie theater and have a countdown timer in the top right the whole time you watched it? Once again, I'm not sure if a completion percentage is something commonly found in Metroidvania style games with the percentage being displayed there all the time, but I hate this regardless. Save this for the actual save and load game screen, not the damn map screen. Dodging and shooting our way to Baron Dex is when I started to feel the challenge ramp up quite a bit. The only way to heal in these levels are grabbing pieces of meat that randomly drop out of enemies or boxes, finding and applying first aid kits, or by saving your game. The meat doesn't heal much, and the first aid kits are about as common as Valve games that end in the number 3, so it goes without saying that saving is the safest, no pun intended, and best way to get your precious HP back. With save spots being so spaced apart, you really gotta do a good job of taking these mutants out without getting messed up yourself. Honest yet fair difficulty that I haven't felt in a modern game in years. Don't get it twisted, this is no Super Meat Boy or Cuphead, but Omega Strike should provide a fair challenge for newcomers and seasoned gamers alike. Upon rescuing Baron Dex, we cross more dangerous lands and take on more threatening baddies. As we progress further and vanquish more of Omega's higher-ups, we begin to do with Baron Dex what we did with Sarge earlier, unlocking more unique skills to move ahead with the story. This is where Omega Strike starts throwing out some slight RPG elements. Yeah, a bit surprising, isn't it? See, the levels we finished earlier, Resistance Caverns, Cloudtop Mountains, hell, every level has several locations that only a specific person and a specific ability can gain access to. Meaning we gotta backtrack while grinding through more waves of enemies. Granted, you don't have to do this, but this is where the collectibles and items really begin to show their value. The coins, treasure, and life cubes are absolutely essential to completing this game. Coins are used to purchase weapon upgrades and Tumbleweed from a bald eye patch wearing man named Snake. I'm gonna, that's a little bit suspicious, I would say. Life cubes are used to increase your total health. Present them 4 at a time to the Preacher, also found in Tumbleweed, to increase your overall HP by 1 block. Every character is useful, all their skills are useful, they have equal importance, and no one's left in the dust. Use them all to the best of your ability, and that's how you'll make some serious headway in Omega Strike. Our final destination is Omega's hideout, appropriately named Omega Citadel. The journey thus far has felt like the slow and steady incline at the start of a roller coaster ride. All the build-up, excitement, anticipation has all come down to this, and shit's about to hit the fan. But it's not Dr. Omega. Of course it's not. It's a video game. A logical train of thought has no place here. Instead, we face off with the OmegaBot 2000. This thing is incredibly difficult. I don't even feel like I'm struggling to do good. I just can't stop getting hit. And next thing I know, I'm dead. His movements, his attack patterns all felt completely random. I was looking oh so desperately for any hole, any flaw, any minuscule specific tendencies I could find to take advantage of, but to no avail. It seemed no matter how aggressively I played, how passive I played, or how flawless I'd play, all I'd do is die over and over and over again. Just to prove I'm not bending the facts to make a more entertaining video or trolling for whatever, you'll see what I mean. See the clip on the left where the OmegaBot does this 3 burst attack, only shoots me a couple times in a row, versus the clip on the right where it shoots me a bunch of times in a row. Don't get me wrong, there are set attacks, but when they happen, and the number of times they happen before they switch off to the next one is completely random. Which is super difficult to deal with in a boss fight. I felt like I just had to get lucky that somehow, someway, I would just beat him with however I did end up beating him, feeling as completely random as possible. Then all of a sudden my 62 IQ big brain noticed a pattern. Certain attacks would only happen when I was standing in certain areas. I figured this out when I was near the top of one of the chains. OmegaBot would continue his singular long spray attack when I was camped up top there. I was able to get up and dangle there like George of the Jungle and unleash enough lead into this abomination with just enough health to make it out alive. I don't know if I should feel ashamed that I ended up cheesing this brutal boss fight, or if I should be relieved that I don't have to fight the urge to break my controller anymore. To be honest, I'm feeling a bit of both, so I'll take it in stride, the good with the bad, so to say. When I finished off the OmegaBot 2000, I was like, holy shit, what a game. Go to the next screen over, and it's more regular levels. I can't even relish in my victory. The game just continues on as if nothing insane had just taken place. Little did I know that facing the OmegaBot was just the start of the final stretch that is Omega Citadel. And oh boy does this feel like the final act of the game. Omega Citadel doesn't hold back in the slightest, throwing every hard enemy your way without any regard for your sanity. You better be well equipped to handle yourself in here. Weapon upgrades, character mastery, high HP, the whole 9. I'm saying this from experience because I can't do it. This section of the game is no joke. Each individual section of the Citadel is so long and chock full with high damaging, high health enemies, it's damn near impossible to get through without at least being grazed by something, which even then slowly racks up to, hey, where'd all my health go? I was constantly hoping and pleading that I would possibly enter a save game area to not only save my progress, but regain all my health back, but nope. I know I could have searched for the optimal way to do this online, or even find a map that shows if there is any safe room nearby, but spoilers are for fucking bitches. And exhibits pimp my ride. What I decided to do, and I'm still shocked that I actually did this, was go back to each individual level, find all the life cubes, upgrade my HP to the max, then head back to Omega Citadel. 6 squares of health for this portion of the game is simply not enough. As I stated earlier, the map screen shows off how many of what collectible I've grabbed, so I can at least tell how many I have to find before leaving, but try looking for collectibles that you've missed in an already fully explored area. That's right, you know what time it is. It's time for the world's most inconvenient Easter egg hunt. There were some levels that had unexplored locations shown on the map, but for the most part, it appears I already fully scavenged each location, meaning I now have to manually search every nook and cranny more thoroughly than before. I'm grinding and sliding down walls and headbutting ceilings just to make sure I hadn't missed any possible secret location. There's a total of 32 life cubes to find and collect within Omega Strike. Playing through the game naturally, grabbing life cubes where I could, just normally playing the game, I found 16, so exactly half. That's where I call massive fucking bullshit on Omega Strike's part. Of the 16 remaining life cubes I need to obtain to have max HP, 12 of them were placed behind hidden walls. Why? Does it make them hard to find? Sure, yeah, but unless you do what I did and jump around slapping yourself against every wall like a poster, odds are you'll probably never find these upgrades ever. And how fair is that? Not very, but them's the breaks, kid. After wasting way more time than I'd like to admit, we returned to Omega Citadel with full weapon and health upgrades, and I'm still dying. I'm in a bit of a pickle now, aren't I? This should go to show how hard this area is, though. I came back with almost double HP, and I'm still getting my ass handed to me. By some stroke of luck, I finally managed to reach a safe zone with a decent chunk of my health too, may I add. Oh, I gotta say, that felt pretty good. Leaving the room? Oh yeah, this looks like the lead up to a final boss fight if I've ever seen one. The battle with Dr. Omega is a 3-tier fight. The first section being against Omega in a mech suit. After stripping him of his armor, he transformed into one of his own ghastly mutant creations. Once we lay Mutant Omega to waste, he explodes into a floating, well, not shrunken head, but enlarged head. That dangling spinal cord really grosses me out. It's kind of like getting a piece of wet food stuck to your hand while you're doing dishes, just immediate shivers through your entire body. That was really gross stuff there. All good things must come to an end, and so does Dr. Omega's dictatorship. And how fitting that I beat him with literally a single hit point left. Really held my breath there for that last end bit. The final boss battle isn't bad, but it's so... It just doesn't live up to being a final boss battle. The expedition through Omega Citadel is way more of an undertaking than the actual fight with Dr. Omega. Most of the attacks Omega uses are straight up lifted from previous boss battles, which is kind of disappointing. There's no outstanding uniqueness to it besides being a multi-layered boss fight. Perhaps what's most surprising is that the ending is a single image. We are told that peace is restored and order is retained, but I found it very unremarkable, especially in comparison to how much pizzazz and energy the opening cinematic had. All in all, Omega Strike took me just shy of 10 hours to complete. I really enjoyed my time with it, but it's so hard to give a recommendation for. Nothing here is extraordinary in quality. There isn't one specific area where I can look at in this game and be like, this is why you should play Omega Strike, but there isn't really anything that bad about it either. Yeah, hunting for collectibles was tedious at times, but at no point did it ever lessen my enjoyment of Omega Strike. Having 3 on-the-ball, unique, different playstyles to swap whenever I please was incredibly fun and never felt stale. This may come across as a dig for some people, but playing Omega Strike feels like I've just discovered the best Game Boy Advance game that I've never heard of. This is mainly due to the graphics, but everything else is on par with other hidden gem sort of tropes. Little to no hype surrounding the game pre-released, honest length, surprisingly varied gameplay, tight controls, a decent story, and above all else surpassing any expectations I had for it, or in this case, didn't have. I know this is going to sound cliche of me to say, but because there is no one particular area where Omega Strike excels, it's hard for me to recommend to a specific set of people. So my end suggestion is, if Omega Strike looks fun to you, give it a shot. That's it. Simple as that. There's good times, bad times, but overall, really fun and memorable times. I gotta give credit to this random indie game for both being harder in difficulty and taking longer to complete than Super Mario Odyssey. I'm not really hinting at anything right now. No, seriously, I'm not.